game is an amateur game. I mean, the professional side of it, there are idols and heroes and fun to watch them play. But I mean, if it wasn't for amateur golf, there would be no golf.
You have to remember, when you play a golf course and you're out there for 4 hours or whatever, you're only hitting a ball for 15 minutes of that. So there's a lot of time to look around.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Top 100 Clubhouse podcast. I'm your host, James Henderson, and I'm here with my boss, my very kind CEO, David Davis. How are you, David?
Yeah, great. Always nice to have a chat with you, James. And we don't have whiskeys with us this time, so I guess we'll it'll just be a chat.
Well, I've got my full family in the house right now, and it's absolute chaos. I've made dinner, done everything, and it's just, I'm not going to lie to you, I needed a few coffees, and I don't think sleep's going to be coming to me easy tonight, but we'll see what happens. So, David, we've got you on because we've actually had quite a cool little activation happen within the company. We've had something very close to your heart, and I know it's very close to your heart because you wear them every time you play golf. We've had ECCO become a key sponsor for Top 100.
Yeah, and that's amazing. I've been, as you know, a lifelong advertisement for them.
For people that don't know, David is the CEO of Top 100 and is also the CEO of Lockhart and has completed the World Top 100. I worked out how many golf courses, how much walking you would have done in those shoes. Worked out how far in terms of just like giving people an understanding, right? So I know how many golf courses you played, so I'm not going to say the number. But if you walked from LA to New York and back, that's probably how much time you spent in golf shoes.
Yeah, I'll buy that.
That's a lot of walking.
That's a lot of walking.
That's wild.
What about the second year? That's like the first year, right? So I mean, what about the
Well, it's I just can't understand how it's that far. It's so far.
In the early days, like we actually were talking about this today. In the early days, we did trips. In the early days, I'm talking like 2011, 12, 13, 14, 15. I would do several trips a year. Let's say at least 3 trips a year, where I'd do 2 weeks, play 36 holes a day, so 2 different courses a day. And we'd always, for whatever crazy reason, throw in a couple of 54-hole walking days. And we're talking walking golf only. So that happened a lot in the UK.
You say walking. How many times do you have to take a buggy when you're doing those things? Because the recovery must be mental.
I mean, if there's no buggies to take, you don't take buggies, right? Like if you're in continental Europe, most places, if they have buggies, they have them only for people who have handicap certificates of one kind or another. Yeah. So you'd have to have like a doctor's note, or in the Netherlands where I live, you need an official, like a handicart card or something. You have to be a member of the handicart. There's like a society that's for people that need to use carts and stuff. And so that comes, you need a medical certificate. Like I said, you need a bunch of other things. Otherwise, golf is a walking sport. It's a sport. You walk and then you log in the miles if you play a lot of golf.
Yes. You say logging in miles. LA to New York and back is a lot of walking. So we've done a few pods together talking about doing the World Top 100 and your story about doing it. But what I would like to do is delve into how would someone else approach it? How do you recommend to others to take on the challenge now? I think that'd be a really interesting way of segueing to, if I was to take on, what would you say? Or if anyone was just going to start that journey, where would you start?
There's a lot of things that can help you. So, for example, I'm just trying to think if there's anybody that I know of. There's not that many people that have completed the journey. And most of the people, they'll be a member of a nice private club someplace, basically. And that helps a lot. Like, I don't know off the top of my head, trying to think if there's anybody that completed it that was not a member of a golf course anywhere or something like that, right? Because one of the big things about golf is sharing and sharing what you've got. And, I can give you, everybody needs to find out what is that they would share, for example. In my case, and I've talked about that before, I'm living in the Netherlands, and, there's other Americans that live in the Netherlands, but there's not that many Americans living in the Netherlands that are complete golf lunatics like I was. And so I was lucky to be in a place that happened to have some amazing golf. And I wasn't a member of those clubs specifically, but I ended up becoming, that's in the early days, a member of Noordwijkse Golf Club, which was one of the best clubs in the country and has always been, and it's not a world top 100, but it's essentially, being a member of a great club that, again, the World Top 100 is such a tiny little percentage, and it's subjective. And, we've talked about those type of things a lot because, I wasn't defining the list that I was chasing. I was just chasing after a list that a bunch of people put together, basically, right? And there's so many amazing courses that aren't on the list and don't want to be, for example, or not even interested in the notoriety or what it brings with it. And in some cases, it would bring a lot of demand to private clubs that might not want that, for example. And I'm sure that's the case with some of them that do get ranked, but there's, clubs all over the place. In the Netherlands as well, there's some great clubs. Noordwijk is a great course and a great club. In fact, it's going to be way better now. Sorry, as a side little thing, but it's being redone over the course of the next 3 years, and that's a massive renovation. And I will bet that that's one of my clubs. I'll be a member of another top 100 course because I think that's going to be a top 100 golf course, or at least if we do a good, if Noordwijk does a good job, they have a really good opportunity to be in the discussion, a serious candidate for it. So, but anyway, a long way to say, you got to find what is that gives me an opportunity to do it. So one of the things is networking. You have to be a good networker, a crazy good networker, and put yourself in a position where you have an opportunity to make friends and meet people and that are members of great clubs. And usually you do that when you're out on the road traveling around, and getting face to face. One of the things that happens this day and age is that people do a lot by Instagram even, or by, Facebook or something. When we were running around and we were doing it the hard way, you weren't doing that because those things just, people didn't use them for that. Instagram wasn't around. I don't remember what year it came around, because I was a very late adopter to using Instagram and even like Facebook. I mean, I might have been an early adopter on Facebook, but I wasn't using it for that type of stuff. I didn't even think about it. I was using it for family related things and stuff, or to stay in touch with some friends. But anyway, all those things are assets that can be used now that we didn't have. There's plenty of clubs out there that are in very, very high demand. So there's things like if you're a member of a high-end private club someplace, there's 1,000 Greens. There's some digital type asset things that you can use, that help. Maybe they only help on a couple of courses or whatever, but they could help you. And I guess it's the kind of thing like, that'll sound silly, but if you're a member of Pine Valley, it's probably easier, or you're a member of Augusta, it's easier to play the World Top 100 than it is if you're a member of the local muni, that has a membership, for example. So, those things you can, you can't take that type of stuff for granted, because a member there that decides to do it has a kind of reciprocity that, if anybody from any other top 100 course would like to play your course, and if it's Pine Valley or Augusta or something like that, or Cypress or whatever, well, obviously that's a no-brainer. And it would be easy if you're willing to put in the hard yards, if you're a member of one of those clubs, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's, if you're a member of anything in the World Top 100, it puts you in a unique space that you have something to share. And then it's about breaking out of your comfort zone, essentially, and getting on the road and visiting places, and finding out how do I give back, how do I contribute to this whole universe of these crazy guys running around the world wanting to have these experiences. And then I become part of it, and that takes some work. No matter, even if you're a member of one of those clubs, it takes some work because not everybody's a natural networker. Not everybody's doing those things, but you have to be willing to put in the hard yards and reach out and, you got to be willing to host people, and give your time to do it. Like I was in this country and I was in a unique situation because it's almost like being that one, open contact to people coming to visit and thinking, and also, in my mind as well, wanting to promote golf in this country because nobody cared. I mean, people just they cared about their club, but they didn't care to promote it as like a place to come or, what's there. And for me, it was like, oh, wow, no, I'm in a place that has this great golf that nobody knows about it. It's like, there's nobody that I know that would ever think of in that stage of life, we're talking like 2005, 2006. And I'm thinking to myself like, wow, there's amazing golf here. And nobody has a clue. And I've never met anybody that knows about it. Now these days, of course, because of social media and because of, let's say a handful of panelists from different, rating panels, Golf Digest, Golf Magazine, Top 100 Golf, like the three, what I'd call main players in the industry. A lot of those people have seen it now. It's not a one-day trip. You got to come for multiple days and, see some other things. So that was like, the tool or the luck or the asset that I had to share was that. And the only thing I had to give was time and enthusiasm because I love those places. And, so I did that. And I said, you're welcome. And somebody would come and then the next person would call up or send me an email or something and say, hey, David, yeah, I'm friends with such and such. And, heard that there's some great golf there. I would love to come see it. And okay. And I did. And it was, I did that over and over and over again, basically, wash, rinse and repeat over and over again. And by the time you're far enough along with that, you've got quite a network of people and you're never more than a couple of steps away from the next great course. And a lot of them, as we know, a lot of courses are accessible as well. So, you don't even have to be, and that's the thing, let's say you aren't a member of any course at all. It doesn't matter, but you have some time and you have a good enough job that you can, set some money aside for a couple of weeks of vacation a year. The first place I'd send anybody would be to the UK, GB&I, Great Britain and Ireland. And I'd say half of, 40% of the World Top 100 is in these countries. You can play every single one of them. They're all accessible. It's going to cost you, a perfect example of how difficult it's become or how challenging it is, even for the accessible places. We were on the phone. Actually, Joe was on the phone today to book tee times at Royal County Down. Now we're talking next year. So, the lines opened at 9 and he was on at 8:30 waiting, basically, and like trying to call in. And he's like 2,000th in the line, when he calls at the exact minute it opens. How can that be? How could he be number 2,000? That's ridiculous. So he's like 2,000, spends 6 hours on the phone to get a couple of tee times for 2027. And the worst part, after 6 hours on the phone, they put up a message in the messaging system that says everything from May to September is booked out now. So there's none left. So every available time that was for visitors in those periods is booked out within the first 5 hours. And the guys that are getting in on that most likely are like these, the professionals, the big travel agents and people. And, we're in that group as the professionals trying to get times. It's incredible, right? I mean, I didn't have that problem with the accessible places. Like they were always accessible when I was running around chasing. So now you got to put in a little bit more planning, even on the ones that are available. But the point is, you can do it. And yeah, it's when I first did it didn't cost anything. And now, around at Royal County Down, and the accessible way is like 500 pounds.
Yeah.
So that's a big difference as well. So like you need to be Yeah, I mean, let's not pretend it's not. Traveling around is expensive if you do it on the budget, in a budgeted way, and so that's a priority. You have to be able to prioritize those things. You can better do as much as you can when you're young before you have kids and you're married and you have other responsibilities in life, or you do them when you're retired. The problem with doing that type of stuff for me, and that's what I always tell everybody, is that, okay, so let's say you're 55 and you can early retire, for example. What's your physical shape like? Because running around the world and chasing all these dreams and, playing golf courses, it's pretty hard work. It sounds romantic, and it is if you're 25 and you are fit and you can do everything. But if you're the average 55-year-old, and you've been sitting behind a desk for 30 years and not getting enough exercise and, not used to long-range flights, it's going to be a lot harder than you think, just from a physical perspective. So yeah, like where do I stop? You can go on and on. There's great clubs that you can, I think you're required to be a member of like a private club. If you're a member of a private club, that does help a lot of things. Obviously, that depending on where you're at, there's different levels of investment required to become a member of a private club. If you're in Florida, it might be $250,000 to $500,000, right? Yeah. If you're in, I don't know, if you're in Wyoming or in Montana or you make it as crazy as you want. Any place, it's probably less than what it is in Florida, right? Realistically, but that doesn't mean your club's less. It just means, you're in a better, perhaps a place where you have a better opportunity to, join a great club that offers a great value and a wonderful experience for less money. If you're like me, that was one of the lucky things. If you're in the Netherlands, well, there's amazing clubs, and it's kind of like the UK. It
arguably is better value in the UK than the UK, because maybe some of the stuff in England's very good value, but now Ireland and Scotland, it's just gone it's astronomical now.
Yeah.
It really has. Like, the cost of coming to Scotland or to Ireland is just outrageous. It's almost becoming unaffordable for the majority of people, whereas previously it was so attractive because anyone could come, and it was affordable comparatively to golf in America. Your average Muni was charging, or good Muni would be charging the same as going to play the Old Course.
Right. Right. Yeah, and we can thank people have had that discussion a million times, but we can thank American tourists for that. We got people that were,
But it's the only reason why people in Scotland and England and Ireland are affording to be members of the golf clubs as well. Mm. They pay for the greenkeeping staff, essentially. Yeah. They pay for the run of the club. So the majority of clubs that you are a member of in Britain that have now become very hard to become members of are very good value. One thing I always thought, David, that would be a great help of anyone's would be to, if you don't have that private club setting, would be to go and play either your state or your country or your whatever's top 100 or your list. Complete that. And when you say you've completed that to people, people's ears will perk up. People will hear that and go, this guy knows. This guy gets it. And people are generous in golf. There's no doubt about that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but even that, what you're saying, like, I agree with that. I mean, if you go play the top 100 courses in California, well, good for you. That's amazing, because that's incredibly difficult to take on a task like that. If you play the top 100 in England, unbelievable, right? I mean, it's a lot of golf. It's a lot of travel. You're going to meet a hell of a lot of people doing it. But yeah, that's the kind of, ambition that probably you need to have to try to take on the world one. The
world one comes later.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't, in no way did I set out to take on top 100 in the world. I wouldn't have thought I had a chance to do that when I was younger. I just didn't think about it, and like I've told that story a million times, but when I looked at the first time when I looked at the list and thought about it and started counting courses, I was like, wow, I played like, 58 or 60 of these or whatever it was, basically. And I'm like, heck, I could laughing, I could finish that someday. I could actually do this list. And, then you enjoy that kind of like being in that zone where it doesn't really matter for a while until you get a little bit closer that you could actually finish, right? And then it becomes like this burden that you carry on your shoulders until it's done. In a fun way. I'm kidding, but that's, from an experiential perspective, if I look back on it and I go like that, like, wow, I got 10 more. How am I going to get these done? These 10, it's like I got to run all the way around the world to get these 10 done. And then I've got to figure out how to do something that it seems impossible, right? And get lucky. Which in my case would have been like, in a lot of people's cases, it's like something like Augusta or Chicago Golf Club or Shanghai Bay or, whatever, or these places, Elliston, with the almost like urban legends.
Yeah, well, very much so. Well, you see some stuff about Ardfin now, and there's just these places that you just never know. Cyprus is another one.
Yeah.
You just very, very small chance you'll ever get a chance, let alone be able to play it.
And that's the other thing, though, is it's a journey, right? It's not about finishing. To me, it's not about finishing that journey. The worst thing that can happen is you finish the journey. Because if you finish the journey, it's like, wow, you're always looking back and going, the best part of it was all the chasing around and all the great people that you met. And, that's it. That is literally, that's the journey. And then people are thinking, it's about finishing that last course, but it's not. Because finishing the last course is like this massive letdown. You've been doing it for, in my case, 15 years, or, like we were with Paulo last summer when he finished. He said he'd been doing it for like 27 years, did he say, or something like that?
Paulo actually was a bizarre moment, right? There was a weird, like looking at Paulo, he had all his family there. It was this massive celebration. It was a lovely event. But for Paulo, when you looked at him, there was relief, but there was also like, oh, it's over.
Yeah.
Like it's done. Like he was a wee bit down about the whole thing, if anything, because that journey that he was finding so much joy from was over.
Yeah, it's like this emotional, it's like you hear it with all kinds of things, when you have this like bucket list thing that you're doing. Like when you finish your bucket list, what does that mean? It's time to die?
Yeah.
It's like, don't, if you create a bucket list, don't ever have it. It shouldn't be finishable. So, maybe that adds to the longevity of life. If your bucket list goes past, like, oh, my bucket list, I want to be 150, or whatever on that, put something like that on the list. So you make sure that it continues on perpetually. Well,
most of those people that have done lists are gone and looked at other ones. They've gone to try to do another list or something else, or, they're constantly looking at more lists, whether it's UK or the Asia or wherever, or a different year of list. There's a great saying in wine that when you build your wine cellar, you want your last bottle in your wine cellar to be on your deathbed. Yeah, exactly. It's the same kind of concept. Look, under the muse of promoting our own thing, which we do once in a while as well. Look, if you're a member of a nice club and you're interested in, let's not even say the list. Let's say having like the greatest experiences in golf, because I think that is essentially that's a much more fun, longer, has longer longevity, or more longevity, or whatever. Mixing up the words there, but that being just starting and really delving into that journey and sharing that with people. So that's one of the things that honestly I'd say I miss sometimes during it, because again, I'm here in this country. I'm alone. I had a lot of golf friends, but it was always traveling someplace to meet somebody. And it wasn't a group, doing things with a group ever. And I absolutely love that and love sharing it. So something like Lockhart, not something like Lockhart specifically, Lockhart Travel Club, our club, what we're doing is, we did 34 of the World Top 100
we had opportunities for members to play 34 of the World Top 100 last year, right? And I didn't have anything like that. I would have killed or died for that. And that is incredible. The people are incredible. It's every single trip is just amazing, right? It's a party you're with. If that's your thing, and you're with like-minded people from all over the world, now 25 nationalities, I'm sorry, I can't do a better advertisement for any opportunity than that. And, threshold to get in is a lot lower than joining Cyprus or Augusta or Pine Valley or whatever. It just is. So
it's great fun as well. And do you know what it's really cool about it is there's an appreciation for people from all sections of the globe and ways of life, and it's just a really honest and open group. It's really quite cool. I was shocked about the variety of member, while also finding them so interesting and polite and friendly. And the membership base is really cool.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I totally agree with that.
Just quickly, while we're still on the thoughts on the top 100 list, I just want to talk about the changes that you've seen in the trends in top 100 lists across the board since you first started to now. What has been trending up and trending down, and which golf courses have been hurt by that and which golf courses have succeeded from that?
The trend is probably towards Instagram and Facebook and courses that are beautiful on visual spectacles that are seaside properties, sand-based ground, firm and fast playing surfaces. That's been very much back into, it's become vogue again. Minimalism, and I'm talking over the course of many years, obviously, right? It started with sand hills and Bannon Dunes and Pacific Dunes and all those things kind of relaunched that second renaissance of golf and the second golden age, if you will, with all these, a lot of great courses have been built in the last 20 years. And I think we went through a big period where, you can argue yes or no if great courses were built. They were just different. They were emphasizing, challenging, difficult golf with penal playing conditions and narrow tree-lined fairways, very lush and green target golf, right? At least if I pick on the U.S., UK has been pretty consistent, I guess, over the last, I don't know, since what, 1700 or something like that? When off the top of my head, I don't know when the old course started, 1600 or whatever, I
would disagree. I think there has been a number of golf courses within the UK that have leaned towards they've watched the stuff in America and been like, oh, I like greenness. Yeah. So a lot of the courses in the UK that have lost their way kind of had lost their way points. Yeah. We're now going back to the firm fast, whereas places like in Australia never lost that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's fair. I mean, I tend to, we've talked about this and laughed about it before, but I tend to believe that nobody does lush green, over exaggerated, way too much money put into a golf course conditions as the US. We own that.
Yeah, no, but they own it to the point where you have to have 50 million greenkeepers and then you can play it.
Exactly.
And it's beautiful golf. It's very cool. It's an experience. If you're used to using your putter from 100 yards out, you're not going to be able to do that anymore.
No, that's not happening too much. In fact, if you're anywhere beyond the actual green surface, you probably wouldn't use your putter too often.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting one because I think there's, links golf is loved and the firm, and it's because of strategic golf, you have more shot options, you have a variety of thought processing that you have to go through to be able to then choose the right shot. It means you have, it's better for the high player than the low. The low player, better for the high player than the low player because the low player then has to choose. There's lots of good reasons, right? But I do think it doesn't help that in America, you have so many great versions of Parkland golf that and no links golf.
Yeah.
And when you have a lot of these lists are decided by Americans, when you try the special thing that you get to taste every so often, it tastes so much better than when you get to eat it every day.
Can't argue with that, James. I agree with that 100%.
So if it was the other way around, would it be that Parkland golf was the one that everyone was talking about because everyone's used to the ground game? I don't know. It's a thought. It's not the right one, but it's a discussion point.
There we could, without picking on particular courses, right? If we look at Adair Manor, that's a solid golf course. I've heard many people say, Irish people saying, "Oh, it's one of the best. It's the best course in Ireland, or one of the best courses in Ireland." Well, okay. I mean, from the view of somebody who's played a lot of Parkland golf, to me, I like links golf. I'm a links guy. Like a member of a links course, I like links golf better. So if you told me that was the best course in Ireland, I'd obviously argue that. I'd say it's a great course and in a spectacular setting. With the manor there and everything. But is it one of the best courses in Ireland? To me, it's not, because I like links golf, and links golf would have a priority. So I'm going to put a lot of links golf courses ahead of a course designed by Fazio. And I'm a fan of Fazio as well, as you know. But still, put that course in the middle of Ireland with your Lahinches and Watervilles and Ballybunions and Portmarnock's and everything there. And I'm like, that's not. Yeah.
But that's because they don't play outside of Ireland. Might you play some stuff in the UK, but it's because the majority of their golf's played on links land. So the one point that they get to be able to do that style of golf at that standard, which is very rare of the greenkeeping.
Yeah.
It's very rare in the UK. I don't think people realize how pristine the stuff in America is comparatively to the UK stuff.
Yeah, it's for obvious reasons, right? Because it's expensive to maintain a golf course like that. And that takes a lot of greenkeepers. It takes a lot of resources. And somebody's got to pay those bills, right? So it's like members have to foot the bill for that. So that means that your membership dues, your annual dues, your joining fees, everything's got to be, multiples higher than what it would be in Great Britain and Ireland. So if you have if you're Brora and you have a few sheep and some cows maintaining, doing, whatever, keeping the grasses short. I won't, I was joking, but I won't say that they're, doing all the maintenance work or whatever. That wouldn't be fair to the greenkeeping staff. But it allows the greenkeeping staff to be, a small handful as opposed to an army of guys, basically.
This podcast is brought to you by ECCO Shoes, particularly their new Biome C5. David, I know you have a wee bit of a fondness for an ECCO.
Yeah, no doubt. I am literally a walking advertisement for ECCO, and I have been. It's really funny. So it's ironic. It's wonderful for me that, ECCO's become a great supporter of Top 100, and we have this partnership going. And I would say that, without beyond a shadow of a doubt, as everybody knows, I've said this probably a million times, even before that. I can honestly say I played the World Top 100 in my ECCOs. So, I had, there was my reason. I had a really good reason for it. So I had some foot issues when I first started playing a lot of golf and walking a lot. And I had a tennis background. I spent years running around, diving around tennis court and stuff like that for a really long time. And that takes a toll because it was hard courts. And so hard courts, there's a lot of, things going on with your feet. And when I started to get a little bit older, not even old, in my 30s, I had, my feet were bothering me when I had to do long walks and stuff like that. And it was often the shoes. And so I was searching for when I started playing golf, and it was all walking golf, and you can, let's face it, you can walk quite a bit in a round of golf. You could, what is it, James? Is it 3 miles, 5 miles?
4.5 miles is the standard golf round.
So 4.5 miles, right? So 4.5 miles of walking. When your feet hurt, it's the worst thing ever. And like I had so many rounds where I would get done, and when I first started playing golf, and I couldn't take it. Like I had to get the shoes off, and my feet were just throbbing. And I ran into ECCO probably in 2007, 2008, 2009, whatever the year was. It was before I started my journey really for playing the World Top 100. And the shoe at the time, so I started, I actually wore a lot of Nikes when I first started because I had a couple of buddies working for the Nike headquarters here in Hilversum. And they were literally, not to take away from Nike, they were giving me the shoes because they were working there. They had them in abundance in the early days. Like they had those shoes, and a couple of the guys were at Nike Golf. And so I was lucky. I knew the guys in the space, and they were just like, yeah, you want another pair? We got another one. These were testers, take these or whatever. And so I was lucky that I had a shoe size that they had a lot of testers in, basically. So I got a lot of free shoes. But the shoes were hurting my feet, actually. So, and it's funny, just the golf ones were. And I don't know if that's because of the way the cleats on the bottom were, the spikes were or whatever, but they were killing my feet on hard surfaces. And so at one point I ran into the ECCOs, which just seemed to have a really good fit for me, for my foot. And even better, I was having, I could walk without the pain of that I had. And these are even pre the insole days. And later I started, their shoes got better and better really fast, actually. So, and then I think it was roughly 2010 or something, they came out, maybe it was 11 or maybe it was 9. I don't know the exact year it was, but they came out with like these Freddie Couples casual shoes. And literally for me, it's like, it was the game changer because I started wearing them everywhere. So I was pretty, I wasn't an old guy, but I was that guy who was, wearing those on my free time all the time. I was wearing them free time to golf course to free time. And I had like 5 pairs of them. And I've always, ever since that time, I've been the guy who's got 10 pairs of ECCOs, basically, these golf shoes. And I'm wearing them literally all the time, unless I'm in like a dress shoe or something. And funny enough, I even have a couple of pairs of ECCO dress shoes just because their shoe, for whatever reason, is a perfect fit for me. And they got better and better. So now I hear like tons of people, I hear and run into tons of people that are wearing them. They got a lot better looking. The casual ones that they came out with couples were really good looking shoe. And they still make them in that style even, it was that good a looking shoe that it's we're 15, 16 years later and they're still really popular, but they're super comfortable and that's even better. But then they came out with, the like Gore-Tex shoes, and those have been wonderful for me. I live in the Netherlands. It rains all the time. If you want to play golf and you want to play golf in the sun with no rain, you don't play golf in this country. You need to go someplace else, maybe like Scotland, to play golf because there's a lot more sun than I think we have here. So, and they came out with all the Gore-Tex, the Biome shoes with Gore-Tex, and I like the ones with the I'm forgetting. I'm sorry. I should know the name of the twisting.
I know what you mean. The weird shoe, the shoelaces that are just twisting.
Exactly. And I love that shoe. And so I've been wearing those shoes for, the BOA. That's what it's called, BOA. So those BOA shoes I've been wearing since they came out with them. I had my first one and I was just like, okay, I'm the guy who also is lazy enough that I prefer not to lace the shoes if I have to. And they did a really good job of making it not so ugly like some of the other shoes that were laceless shoes. So, it just, it has that little knob on it. The knob has a low profile. I thought it was cool looking, and good enough. It fits that to my, fit my style well enough. And then I'm like, okay, I want these in all the colors basically. So like I've got, and that's a good advertisement, even though I bought every one of them. So like I've got a whole, wardrobe of these ECCO shoes that I paid in from whatever to 200 euros to 250 euros for basically. And I love them. They're great. They're what I've been playing all the time. They got this new one that came out. Sorry, I need to even actually look up the name of it. You said, so the
Biome C5.
I say Biome. Is it Biome?
I don't know. I'm just thinking biodynamic or biology.
You're probably right. And I think in the Netherlands it's biome, because I've heard them say it like a million times. But so this ECCO Biome C5, right? I don't have one yet, and I want one. I shouldn't say one. I want several of them because, that's my go-to basically. So they did it's probably the C4, whatever one was the last year's model. Like I could run down and grab one, but I thought they were beautiful and was hoping they wouldn't change those. And they're so comfortable, and they have that thing on them. So anyway, I'm excited to see the next one. It's supposed to be really stable. It has it also has the Gore-Tex. It's waterproof basically, and the waterproofing's been wonderful with those shoes. Like I can't tell you how many times in the beginning, even in the early years with the casual Echoes, my feet were just soaking wet, because I'm playing in the rain all the time, half the time, basically. So when that changed, that was awesome. And the ones that, one of the great things about the other ones was that they're so stable for me. So like, if you're, think about how important the connection, and this sounds like it literally sounds like a total ad, and I don't mean it like that, but if you have a good connection, like I even have an insole in mine as well, right? So I have that kind of double thing. But if you have an insole in your shoe, or the shoes are really comfortable and they're really stable, that helps your golf swing a lot, even in dry conditions, right? That stable base is, for me, that's super key. I'm all over the place anyway. Not quite Scotty Scheffler type, but getting there. So that. That the last ones, that's one of the things that have stuck out is how grounded you feel when you're standing on top of the shoe and you're going to play. Anyway, that, and that's a sincere...
David, I have to admit, I listen to a lot of podcasts. I know you do a bit as well. And one thing I would say is I've never heard an ad read go on for 5 minutes before. That was just pure passion, which is, I'm sure that ECCO will be very happy with the fact that the ad wasn't an ad. It was literally you just shouting about from the rooftops about something you adore. So
yeah. No, that's true. And I can only think of a couple of products that I have that I would profess that much. One of them is obviously a travel bag. I'm not going to mention it, but anyway, yeah. So one's a travel bag. I got the shoes, and that's half the battle right there.
Yeah, if you're doing the world's top 100, you need to be able to trust where your clubs are going and never get sore feet.
Exactly.
So, yeah, the rest you can sort out along the way. So just a couple of things about the ECCO Biome C5. Every detail is crafted for the perfect feel. And I know David and his many adventures in golf have enjoyed ECCOs over the years, but these have been designed to play and built for comfort. So thank you very much, ECCO. Appreciate it a lot. You played... I think over 1,000 golf courses, which is a few. Which golf course is your biggest surprise?
I think it changes. It probably changes every year, James. My biggest surprise last year was probably either Sand Valley in Poland or Ålands Golf Club on Ålands Island, between Finland and Sweden. So certainly those were the two biggest surprises last year. Like ever, I'd have to think about it. Like my spontaneous answer, I don't think I have a spontaneous biggest surprise answer.
There's not many golf courses. That's the cool thing about those two you just said, is there's not many golf courses in the world now that you wouldn't have played in terms of the recognized group of golf courses that everyone knows the name of. So to be able to still get surprises in golf shows you how much golf there is out there that people don't realize that you can go and play and get an honest, cool experience. Right, which golf course do you think has the best set of par threes?
Probably Pine Valley or Cypress or one of the top few golf courses.
How about the best par fours? Same again?
I mean, there's a reason those courses are so high up. I mean, for example, Hirono has incredible par threes. It's got like 4 what I'd call absolutely, mind-blowing par threes. That's a good example. South Cape has, it has 3 out of 4 that are mind-blowingly good. Like spectacular, heroic shots over water with cliff tops and stuff like that. So, anytime you get into that type of stuff, it's not that difficult to say those are courses with just incredible sets of par 3s.
Lastly, par 5s.
Yeah, you said par 4s, and I didn't really answer that question, but I think it's really hard. I mean, I could answer Pine Valley to everything, because that's why it's that's why it's the number one course, one of the number one, number 2 course in the world all the time. So par 5s is a tough one. So I can easily answer Pine Valley to that as well, to par 5s. But the par 5s is probably one of the hardest holes to design really well, and to put multiple great par 5s on a golf course. You don't see that very often, because it's often it requires a lot of space, and so it's often like, how do we link together the interesting ground with the other interesting ground? Hey, par 5, or 2 par 5s even, or whatever it is, right? Let's put in, let's put a link in there, and often the par 5 is the duper. That would be used for it. So when you find a great par 5, or a host of great par 5s on a golf course, usually it's going to mean that the entire property is pretty interesting land, because they didn't use the most boring parts of the golf course for par 5s.
One that's very close to my home, and it is a bit of a cop-out because only has 3 of them, is I think Muirfield's par 5s. 3 par 5s are absolutely exceptional.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, is it 17?
5, 9, and 17, yeah.
17 is a phenomenal par 5, like really strong.
It's a fun debate, but we'll move on. Where is the best fairways? Most interesting fairways you've seen?
The most interesting fairways. The best fairways in terms of turf are at places like, Tira and Taridi have the best turf. Like some of the best turf, pure fescue with no like weeds in it. Basically, it's incredible. So. And other than that, I don't like the surface as much as I do fescue, but some of the couch grass and in Australia, which you recently experienced, some of that turf is amazing to play off of. Very, very firm. I like the way a fescue plays a little bit more still, but that turf in general is incredible to play on. If that's how you meant the question to be.
It was more interesting in terms of the way they're shaped and the way they sit and the way they sit within the land. Got it.
So to me, what makes interesting fairways is when there's not too many flat lies. So I like to, I like a situation where there's always more to think about than just like you're at the driving range, a flat type of lie that's perfect. I like a side hill lie or a downhill lie or uphill or whatever. So, courses that have a lot of movement and contours within the fairways, I tend to like a lot, basically. So, there's tons of examples of links. That's why links golf is so interesting, because a lot of times there's not so many flat lies. You could look at a place like Deal, for example, and Royal Cinque Ports, and then there's a lot of holes where you have crazy fairways with humps and bumps, and that's really interesting. That makes for interesting golf, and it's interesting to play off that. Prestwick has at least 12 holes that have those humps and bumps and all those things. We were just in New Zealand, Parawamu. I just watched this thing on how to say that, and I still can't say it. And I watched it being said correctly 10 times, and I still can't pronounce it. But as some people say, Pram, I think it is, as short. So the fairways at that course in New Zealand are rolly, humpy, bumpy fairways, and I love that. And I think that's super interesting.
That's one of the cool things about Brora, actually, is Brora's got a lot of fairways that there's no flat lies. You never get a flat lie there. And it's It's something that you don't see a lot in parkland golf.
That would be a tough question. Which parkland courses have the most interesting
micro contours and fairways? Would that be the best way of saying it?
Oh boy, off the top of my head, it's hard to think of parkland, like true parkland courses that have a lot of interest in micro contours in the fairways. I know that they're out there.
Botegarten up in Scotland would be one that's a really good example of it. So
I've seen pictures of places like White Bear Yacht Club, for example. Really interesting looking fairways. Then there's Lasonia Links, very interesting looking fairways. I've never played either one of those. They're on my list of courses I'd love to play. And part of that's the reason why. I mean, you've got places that are pretty classic, so I don't know if you could call them, I don't know if I'd call them parkland, but like Myopia Hunt Clubs like that. It's amazing. And the fairways are wild, there's like a rolling, wonderful course, wonderful contours on the ground. Eastward Ho is like that, I'm sorry now to pick on the Boston area. If you go up into Long Island, a lot of those courses have those kind of contours that are really, really interesting. I mean, the ones that I think the ones I'm mentioning are really good. Marion's for example, got some great holes. There's some really great land in that area of, contouring fairways. Pine Valley is full of contours in the fairways. There's not that many flat lies out there as well. So I think that's part of great golf. The harder question would be, tell me how many great golf courses there are that have perfectly flat fairways. And we could argue on this, right? Because you could say things like Birkdale.
Yeah. Hillside, back nine.
People love Birkdale as a golf course, but I'm not as much a fan. It's a great golf course, right? And a championship test and all those things. I'm not as much a fan as other people are of it, just because, it's an example of a links course where in my mind, they plowed the fairways flat. And that's great for championship golf because pros like to be able to hit the shot and get rewarded for it and have a good lie. If you're in a tournament and you're playing great golf, striping it up the middle, you want to be rewarded for that. And links golf doesn't reward you necessarily for those things. But Birkdale as a links course does. So it's kind of like a modern links that's been plowed flat in a lot of areas, and you have good lies. If I'm wrong, tell me. But that's my.
Oh well, there's a reason. There's a reason why good golfers like Birkdale is because it does differentiate themselves from the higher handicapper who's less accurate, because it does punish people when you go offline.
Yeah,
there's a reason why, and good golfers prefer Birkdale over Royal St. George's, let's say, whereas the higher handicapper would prefer Royal St. George's because the variety is there.
Yeah, perfect example. I mean, you can hit the ball in the middle of the fairway at Royal St. George's and somehow end up in the bush on the side. If you're, and that's what they say. Okay, links golf fits. You got to hit a great shot, and you almost have to be able to read the fairways of where you're landing it to have a chance to hit the fairway. Yeah,
which I think is quite cool. Lastly, but not leastly, where's the best day in golf?
What do you think? It's got to be Santa Pazienza, right?
Santa Pazienza is pretty special.
I mean, if we're gonna pick something that nobody's ever gonna see, and they can't debate, they can't prove us wrong, then I guess that's gonna be Santa Pazienza.
That's just hit the hour mark, and I'd just like to say, David, thank you very much for coming on and joining us to talk about how what you did them in really with the shoes, and then thank you for ECCO for joining the tribe. I'm sure you'll be hearing a few more of the ECCO adverts throughout our podcast, and then also giving us some funny little one-liners for all those interesting little surprises about playing the top 100. So yeah, thank you very much, David.
Yeah, thank you for putting up with me again.
Oh, it's great to have you on. And thank you very much to everyone who's listened. Play fast, lunch slow.
Top100golfcourses.com has set the standard for golfers worldwide, and now you can wear that standard proudly. premium apparel, and exclusive gear for those who truly know the game. Shop now at top100golfcourses.com.